All right, waiting for people to come on board. We're live. So, we got one. All right, good morning, folks. Breakfast with the coach. Hopefully, people have been waiting and anticipating another session. I'll just wait for the audience to build, of course, and then I can get into your questions and answers. So, a few people waiting. By all means, please let me know you're out there. Good. Appreciate the thumbs up, folks. Give us a thumbs up or a heart or whatever emoticon floats your boat. Let me know you're joining in. Wow, that was a quick jump. 17 already. Appreciate the comments. Some nice comments there. Let me know who you are and where you're out there, and we can jump right in. Wow, there must be a lot of people waiting for the episodes because we jumped pretty high pretty quick. So that's pretty good. Good. So I'll be answering your questions, etc., in a couple of minutes. And good. Well, I'm glad you're turning in to learn, and hopefully I can help you do that now. As you'll see, folks, there is behind me. And let me know if the picture's okay, folks. I'm new with this phone stuff, so is the sound and the picture good? Just let me know. If there's any problems, picture's not sideways or anything like that, so that would be great. Wow, Northern Ontario. Haven't had a visitor from there in a long time. So everybody is seeing me, hearing me, right side up and loud and clear. So I guess I will get on with things. So last week I had, a few weeks now, people are asking me about certain things in the background. Which is confusing because you're supposed to be paying attention to what I'm saying. But no problem. People have been asking me specifically about that guy in the background right there and what is on there. So rather than taking that off the wall and reading it to you, I decided to just bring it up online, and you can look for yourself. It's called Desiderata. So before we get into the training and the dieting, hanging and banging stuff, I thought I would read Desiderata for you. That's what's on my wall in the background. Desiderata is by Max Ehrmann back in the 1950s. So hopefully you'll be able to relate to this. Someone that asked about it, the kind of things that I keep around me to remind me of the more important things in life. So Desiderata, here we go. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible and without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, but listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story to tell. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly to the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. Do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your own soul. With all its sham, judgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. And that is Desiderata. And I keep that on my wall, and every so often I take myself to reading it like I just did here. So someone in my last breakfast with the coach or live session, someone asked me what that was on the wall, so I thought it was worth sharing. So I hope you enjoyed it. Some very good life lessons of spirit and counsel of the soul. Always important if you want to make your way in the world. So yeah, having said that, Kansas is coming in and all these other people. So yeah, I'm ready when you folks are ready. It looks like our numbers are climbing pretty good. And I don't mind starting every week with stuff like that while we wait for our audience. So that's always good. So I get a lot of questions every week. People that are a little maybe shy to ask questions online, or they send in their stuff to my email, etc. So if you got any questions as we're going along, by all means, just fire when ready, and hopefully I'm looking at it the right way, and we'll come up with what I need to look at. So we're certainly building an audience. Finland is on board, so we're getting a worldwide audience as usual. So yeah, I got one letter from one of my clients I thought I would discuss. Worth mentioning. I had a client who recently had a very, very long pregnancy, went through a very long pregnancy, and then got right back on her program after her pregnancy, and lost her baby pregnancy weight pretty quick. And it was funny that people hadn't seen her in a long time were taken to making comments on just how fast she lost her baby weight, and they couldn't believe that she was pregnant just a few months ago. As a matter of fact, some said if they hadn't seen it themselves, they wouldn't believe it. And yet, what she reported in was, as fascinated as everyone was, no one was interested in what she was doing. Like, no one asked her about her diet or her training. Instead, they tried to tell her what they were doing. Whatever Vogue thing, cleanses and things like this. And so, it's often the boring stuff. She was waiting, she said, like dying to tell them about how getting a coach was the right idea, and what she was doing was just, some regular practicing regimentation and things like that. But it never came up. So as much as people made notice of her tremendous back to form after a really troublesome pregnancy where she gained a lot of weight and then lost all that baby weight quickly, people took notice of it, but had no notion to follow up and ask, what she was doing and how she did it. Instead, they wanted to tell her what they're doing, to achieve their non-achievements. Some same old usual Vogue trend online gimmicky crap. So it's funny that even in the face of success, people are a little resistant to check into what that process may have been. So I just thought that was interesting. Like she reports here, getting rid of my excess fat seemed almost effortless with your approach. I remember struggling back in my 20s just to get under 150 and just to maintain that. And on top of that, while I was doing it, everyone was asking me if I was okay. And today, now I get it. I'm under 140. I'm not even trying. And I was kind of shocked when I saw that. Not that it matters. I feel great. So, that's kind of thing there that people are going to have to sometimes go through a lot of trial and error before they realize that, what works isn't the sexy stuff, it's the routine stuff and falling into a lifestyle that you can sustain and maintain. So very important stuff. So, yeah. And Sweden is on board. Who else is on board? Now that we got everybody on board, fire your questions, folks, if you have any. One of the other things I wanted to mention, I just wrote down a few things. So I think when we talk about all this stuff, we talk a little bit about responsibility. So responsibility is literally your ability to respond, responsibility. And it's an ability that you can develop over time. In this industry, I notice in particular that people confuse the word responsibility with reactivity. And reactivity is not responsibility. They're not even in the same realm of quality. All right. Belgium on board as well. Appreciate everyone telling me where you're coming from around the world. So it's breakfast here, but it obviously is not around the world. So that's an important thing too. People often confuse elements of qualities of control. So very, very important in terms of discipline, that you develop true adult responsibility. Eat like an adult, exercise like an adult, things like that. And, succumbing to gimmicks is not really worthy of adulthood. So Spain is on board as well. All right, folks, I got everyone who's on board. Someone must have a question. We'll just fire one ready. I think we got people from North Carolina. And where are the donuts? Well, the donuts are probably done for a few weeks, Bronco. I don't eat the same thing every refeed day. I like to mix it up. That's kind of the benefit of the cycle diet, that you get off the diet. So, I'm not going to eat the same refeed stuff every week. Sometimes on refeed days, I actually feel like healthy foods. So sometimes I'll reach for healthy stuff. It depends how deep into super compensation I may be. So, but yeah, don't think there'll be any donuts today. But last refeed day, we did pretty good. We, I hammered out over 3 liters of ice cream. So that was, I haven't done that in many, many years, but I was deep into refeed mode. So those are good questions as well. So, any questions on diet and training? I don't know if all you people have seen or picked up our latest project, Abs by Andy, absbyandy.com. We call it the AAA project, Andy's Awesome Abs. Lots of good stuff in there about the cycle diet and refeeds and optimizing metabolism, that you can't stay lean if your metabolism is not optimized. So all those things, very, very important as well. So, hey, if you want a donut, have a donut. That's my advice to whoever wrote that. So what else we got this morning? So many things come across my desk that I can make whole podcasts on, or whole breakfast with the coaches on, but I really like to do these for Q&A. So I'm here to answer your questions, other than maybe in the beginning I'll do a little things like I did this morning. If you guys like that kind of thing, then I will continue that week to week. So how often do I recommend an active rest week? Been hitting it pretty hard in the hard gainer. Let me just go down here. Chad. Well, Chad, I don't like to put things on an outside-in schedule too much in terms of rest weeks and stuff. However, having said that, usually around the 12 to 16 week mark, I usually tell people you don't want to take a whole week off training less than 8 weeks. That just doesn't make sense. The body's resilient, can easily handle 8 weeks of training. Imagine a professional team that makes it to the playoffs, right? They have another mini season to go through at the highest level of performance. So anyone can handle turning it up a notch for a little while. But you have to listen to biofeedback too, Chad. So in and around the time, in my methodology, I believe that program mastery doesn't even happen until week 7, 8, or 9 of a program, a well-written program. And so you want to ride that out. I call it surfing the wave. You want to do that for another 6, 7, 8 weeks. So anywhere 12 to 16 weeks, if you're feeling a little burned out, not looking forward to going to the gym, first thing to do is back off intensity and pace for a week, maybe 2 weeks. And if that doesn't calm it down, then shut it down for a week or 2 as well. And you get better and better at reading those signs if you start paying attention to them. But all the more reason at first have a coach who will sort of determine that stuff. But I don't like to do anything by the numbers. You guys probably know that by now. I'm a big believer in the biofeedback, that the body's always telling us what it needs and when it needs it. And the more sophisticated we are in terms of tuning into that communication with our body, the better we'll be. Question, can you explain what happens when there is a interstitial subcutaneous retention versus glycogen being stored in the muscle after a refeed or higher intake day? Basically, we're talking about osmotic balance, Tracy. It's just osmotic is just a scientific word for water balance. Some foods are more cosmetically friendly than others. Some digestive situations are more prone to store water where we want it, which is intracellularly, not intercellularly. Some foods are more cosmetically friendly. And on a refeed day, how our bodies react. We we might have taken in stuff that's just not the body is just a little more sensitive to, and when it'll react, it'll release more water, interstitial water and stuff. That's usually a labile thing. Labile meaning unstable. It's not going to last. So I never worry about that stuff because it's like I said, it's not going to last anyway. So the more important thing is eating in a way that's sustainable long term. So if for a couple of days you're a little watered out, unless you're getting on a stage or being in a photo shoot, then what's the difference? It takes the edge off the diet. That's a good thing. There's never going to be a perfect scenario. I think people keep looking for that. Every so often you'll trip on one, but if I had the perfect refeed day last week, let's say, and I woke up the next morning and everything was perfect, I looked better, I felt better, the following week on my refeed, I could do the exact same refeed and have a completely different physiological result to that. And I don't think people understand that in terms of refeeds and things like that. So good question, Tracy, good question. Physique after 50, having trouble doing all 6. Would like to do it 4, emphasizing the major body parts. Does that sound good? It sounds okay. I if you're on a 6-day program and you can't train 6 days a week, then you're really not on the program anymore. That's my problem with that stuff. The more people tweak something that's supposed to be 5 days or 4 days and they want to make it 3 days or 4 days, so you tweak that and you make it something different, then you're technically not doing that thing, right? It's like people who say they're on a low-carb diet, but they eat 3 meals of carbs every day. Well, then you're not on a low-carb diet, that kind of thing. So, so there is 3-day programs in the Physique After 50 protocol there. Nancy asked that question. I would go back to the 3-day protocol for a while and just stay there, and then maybe progress from there. Maybe go to hard gainer for 4 days and then transition from there. So, okay, so MK here, you mentioned that some people should not be on the cycle diet. Who falls into that category? Yeah, I didn't do a diet that is one size fits all. I did a diet that optimizes metabolism and where you can enjoy living in the real world of food abundance and still stay lean and not have that be a consequence of gaining weight. So one of the things we say there is metabolism first. But in this industry, in the weight loss industry, no one thinks metabolism first. Everyone thinks weight loss first. So if you don't have the right metabolic profile, then you're not a good candidate for the cycle diet. If you're already really overweight and you're having a cheat day every week, well, you're not in a metabolic profile where having that cheat day is going to benefit you cosmetically. You're just going to store that as fat because you're already in a fat storing mode. And all of that stuff is explained in my book and the course, The Cycle Diet. So if you want to check out the book and the course, thecycle.diet, there's no .com there. It's just the cycle, all one word, .diet. That would be something you would want to check out, explain all of that kind of stuff. Bronco, I'm going to have to put on my glasses, guys. Is the triple a program, a whole body approach, and not solely an abs routine? Oh, the AAA program, sorry. No, it's an abs, I would call it more than an abs routine, Bronco. It's a way of, the way Andy specifically chose to acquire the 8-pack of abs that he has, but sustain it as well. So we go into his lifestyle, we go into his diet, you see him preparing meals, you see the actual ab circuits, and then we break them down, how they can be done standalone or how they can be part of actual program and stuff like that. So, sometimes people mix up exercises in the triplex because they forget what they are. Remember the sets and reps. Is that okay? Not really. It's okay if you're substituting an exercise with a like exercise. For instance, when I write programs, I don't know what someone's gym layout is in a city halfway across the world. So if I do like horizontal leg press triplexed with side lateral machine and tricep pushdowns, well, maybe in your particular gym, those pieces of equipment are way too far away to realistically be done together. Then you want to do like you want to make a like comparison. So let's say if the first exercise is the horizontal leg press, but the side lateral machine is way across the other side of the gym, then maybe you just bring over to light dumbbells or whatever weight of dumbbells to hit the side lateral raises with dumbbells instead. So you're mimicking the same movement. So they don't have to. The problem comes where you take a movement that's completely unrelated. So in that example, you go from horizontal leg press, and since there's no side lateral machine around, instead of dragging dumbbells over and doing side laterals, you do a bicep curl. That wouldn't be right, because now you're not you're not following the layout of the program. So that's important. Laura Lou, I compete in the Open OPA Women's Physique, and I've had 2 strokes. Wow. I find it extremely hard to function at low glycogen. Everyone does. I think I'm crazy because I want. Sorry. I find it extremely hard to function at low glycogen levels. I think I'm crazy because I want to be shredded, and then it just sort of falls off. Well, Laura, I don't know how well you know my stuff. I'm not a big fan of females competing in the physique world. It's very, very unnatural, extremely hard on the body, metabolically, hormonally, and psychologically. I don't know why anyone wants to be shredded. And women, unless it's your natural genetics to be thin and lean, to struggle to be thin and lean and think you can sustain that is just going to wreak havoc on your body. So again, I have to use my phrase. There's a difference between looking at yourself. Prepositions here, folks. There's a difference between looking at yourself and looking after yourself. And looking after yourself should always come first. And anyone with that kind of history, I would advise against competing, Laura. I wrote a book, Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting. You can find it on Amazon. Maybe check that out and find out what, the kind of repercussions that can happen from competing. And I'm going to read in the future. I'm going to read, if you follow my Facebook page, I'll read you some letters to the coach that I've put in a file, big file that I get every year about people who, especially ladies, competing catches up to them and ruins their lives. So, I'm not a big fan of the stage. I've seen way too much to see what it does, especially to females and their metabolisms and their physiques long term. In my opinion, I'd like to see competing in the physique world for ladies less glorified and more nullified, to tell you the truth. So just to, again, err on the side of health and taking care of yourself and looking after yourself. Chris, hey coach, when you start coaching a client, do you look at calorie macronutrient ratios at all, or do you give them food choices based on the client's biofeedback, work from there? Chris from the UK. Good question. I don't work with stuff like that anymore, Chris. And being an expert in metabolism, I don't need to crunch numbers anymore. That's something I did way, way earlier in my career before I understood about the misleading nature of calorie counting and stuff. I do get people who join with me. I ask them for a 3-day diet history. And then what that does, by looking at that, I can see how well they are treating their metabolism or not treating their metabolism, how well they are feeding their body or not feeding their body. It really has nothing to do with numbers. So it has to do with protein-sparing nutrients, regimentation, food choices, things like that, how that fits with what their goals may be, things like that. It's a way easier thing to assess, and it can be assessed a lot more quickly and just as accurately than I never use numbers when assessing client metabolism. That is about the most misleading thing out there right now, especially in the fitness world, with the illusion of control that you think you can quantify everything. Well, you can't. And we've had podcasts about that and everything. And a lot of that's in my book, Understanding Metabolism. So if you check out my book, Understanding Metabolism, a lot of it will be in there. Here's the... it's this book. I just knocked down my Understanding Metabolism. All right. The Truth About Counting Calories, Sustainable Weight Loss, and Metabolic Damage. So you can find that at scottabelfitness.com. or on Amazon, I'm sure. So good question, but that's just, I don't work that way with numbers anymore. I work mostly with choices and portion sizes and try to fit things to people's lifestyle. So Sarah says, I thought I was in super comp, had a refeed meal and got full pretty fast. Sure sign I'm not there yet? Yes and no. It's a fairly good sign you're not there yet, but it could be also a sign of digestive issues, just not, you might have a more sensitive gut than most, so getting full pretty fast, you might just not have the enzyme activity in there, maybe from previous dieting or whatever. You can get really a sluggish digestive system, which can be an indicator of a sluggish metabolism, but isn't always. So but it's a good sign that if you got full really, really fast and you didn't eat a large amount, then probably not quite in super comp, and you should diet maybe a few weeks longer. Sometimes I do that with clients, just to create what I call insurance. Just get super compensation insurance. Make sure that you're deep in super compensation mode, and then work from there. Scott, for years I'm getting the bonkers in my head from the weird exercise we see in the gym these days. Yeah, you and me both. One exercise is driving me crazy. You'll see probably more in your gym too. Something like a front dumbbell raise, and then it tapers off. I don't know what you're talking about there. Sorry, your post. Yeah, your post just sort of withered away there. How exactly does the cycle diet work? Well, that's why I write a book, Henriette. I can't explain that in a realm of a call-in question and answer. The cycle diet works. The reason it's called the cycle diet, I'll try to surmise this for you. It's called the cycle diet because you cycle between relative calorie deficits, what we call underfeeding, with regular calorie surpluses, what we call overfeeding. So you cycle those things, and you cycle them on a weekly and then on a long-term basis as well. And you do that to optimize metabolism. And I use some examples are what physique competitors can get away with for a few days after a contest, why they can eat a lot and they don't gain weight, they just look better. Professional eaters, people that compete in professional eating contests, there's many of them who are very, very lean and stay lean. But as professionals competing in something, they have to practice regular overfeeds. And people haven't looked before at how and why that might be something that actually keeps them lean, because they're optimizing their metabolisms. So that's how the cycle diet works. It works in what we call super compensation mode, meaning you get a certain level of glycogen depletion in the muscles and liver, and then you're ready to, a refeed actually helps you. It restokes leptin levels. It refills glycogen stores. It hyper spikes metabolism for a short-term period of time, burns more fat, things like that. So, but it's all in the book, in explanations, research, and it's all in the course as well. So the cycle diet course. And again, that's thecycle.diet, not no.com, just the cycle, all one word, .diet. So Dan and Michelle Kennedy. Quick question. When getting into super comp and hitting the cheat meal, does it matter what diet approach? Let me see does it matter what diet approach one uses? Not really. I've seen people make work of the cycle diet with various forms of macro manipulation. Over the years, I just keep dialing it down to more and more simple forms. Like I said, in the cycle diet book, we offer some calorie formulas for people to get a jump and start using calories, but none of my people actually use calories. We go completely by biofeedback, because after 4 decades I can kind of graduate to that level, but we give people starting levels. And I think what you're asking is if someone is on maybe a low-carb, high-fat diet, will the cycle diet work? Yeah, as long as you reach metabolic supercompensation mode, then the method you do to get there is one thing. It just has to be relative deficits, not absolute starvation deficits. But I just find low-carb dieting can wreak havoc in a lot of ways, digestively and in terms of flirting with absolute deficits, and then making the stomach ultra-sensitive, which kind of makes it hard to have a substantial refeed when you need it. So things like that. So Jan, can I discuss some tactics using a diet strategy I use with a client? Assessment is critical. Refeeds, usual during a refeed calorie deficit. Well, not all my clients, Jan, are on the cycle diet. Like I said, I treat clients individually, so I do an assessment on them. If their goal is weight loss and they have substantial amount of weight to lose, then I'm not going to put them on the cycle diet. They're not going to be in super compensation mode for a long, long time. So, again, this is where proper assessment and observation comes in. Yesterday, for instance, I posted online before and after pictures of a client, and I specifically used that client because of the uniqueness and special element of that. He was able to lose a lot of weight. Not because of a diet tactics I used or even an advanced training program. Actually, both were quite simple in terms of application. What we really worked on was his mindset. So it reminded me again, quality of mindset determines quality of behavior, and that you don't coach programs and diets, coach people. So when the person first joined, truly was not ready for reaching his goal of weight loss. He just wasn't mentally ready. And I could pick that up right away with my assessment information. So we worked more on his mindset and then assigned him, very simple diet strategy and training program. And then boom, you saw the results yesterday in those before and after pictures. And so now, we're able to use a more tactical approach with diet and training to even, further his advances. But so a lot of the times it's not even the diet or the training. It's, the first thing we assess for a coaching client, if you're a big C coach, is what is this person's need state? All right. What does the person need the most? Well, you have to look at the triangle of awareness for that, right? And what the person needs the most, is it mental, emotional, or physical behavioral? Now, all those things influence each other. But some of the times you're going to see that the physical behavioral is actually the problem, not the solution. People who are convinced they're carb resistant, or, they're gluten intolerant, or I don't know, all these other scare tactics used in the diet world. So they're convinced of that when in fact those are the things that may be hurting them, right? So that's a very, very important thing. It's a great question, but not all the times is having a new client is the assessment that comes back to me all about a diet and training assignment. Sometimes it's about this person needs work in this specific mental or emotional area, and we'll concentrate on that more. And the workout and diet will just be a reflection of how well they're doing in that mental or emotional realm. So that's very important. How often can I do the glute raise off the bench that you love? Well, if you're doing it without any resistance, then you can do it as many times as you want, really. Unless it starts to just feel worse or whatever, but 3, 4, 5 times a week. So, yeah. Someone just shared my video. That's great. I appreciate that. Good stuff. Laura Lou, good to see you back. Yeah, I don't know any other way but being honest, Laura. That's kind of my, that's just my thing. It's not even a thing. It's just how I am. So you're taking a break from the stage. Good. It's probably a good idea. And hopefully when you do, you don't experience any ramifications from the stage. If I had my way, I could get on a big stage somewhere on a platform and preach to all the ladies that's just how much harm they're doing by glorifying the competitive experience. It's competition season here, so I see it all around me. And we've talked about that on my Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast. By the way, Laura, you might want to go to my Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast and look for the episode with Desiree Walker. Desiree is an athlete. She's a dentist now. She's someone who was on American Ninja Warrior, and I helped her earn a pro card in figure back when I was still helping people with that. Lifetime natural girl with superior athletic ability, but I had her earn her pro card eating carbs at every meal and doing no cardio at all. So, if things require much more than that, I would worry about the person who's competing, about their future metabolically, hormonally, biochemically, and otherwise. So that's enough ranting about that. Hey, Perry. In the hard gainer workout, it states that working out up to 7 days a week, if intensity is in check, but what are the least amount of days to actually progress in the gym long term? I can't see anyone progressing in terms of physique development or physique sculpting doing any less than 3 days a week. I do have people that will actually write me and say, I can only train twice a week for an hour, and I'm like, well, good luck to you. I'd like to be 6'5" too, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So there's reality checks that need to take place, and sometimes people's expectations are just unrealistic, and I've talked about that before. So, and back to Laura. Laura, go out and find that Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Also, the one I did with Krista Scott Dixon from Precision Nutrition, PhD in Women's Studies, and look for that as well. And then I have a little teaser Facebook post coming up on Tuesday morning at some point. Not my first post, but my second one. Hopefully you ladies will check that out as well. We'll do some storytelling. I think what you mean starts as a dumbbell raise, thumbs up, and hands are supinated, drawn together at the top. Just someone describing stupid exercises. Look, stupid exercises are everywhere. I don't really need to... if people start listing all the stupid exercises they saw, we could just rename this Breakfast with the Coach, like stupid exercises of the week, and we probably would never run out of content. But that's the amazing part, like we went into... we're shooting Hard Gainer Solution video now. We're going to turn the book into a class. And I'm in a different gym shooting those exercises this week and looking around the gym. And it makes me shake my head that people still after all this information and stuff is out there, to just see what I see in the gym for exercise technique and stuff. It's just mind-boggling. So, and a reminder that Desiree Walker's name is Ninja Dentist. You might find her on social media as Ninja Dentist as well. But definitely check out our Smarter Sculpted Physique podcast with Desiree. So, there you go, Laura. Someone, Sherry, my client, Sherry Van Antwerp, just posted it. Just posted the Smarter Sculpted Physique episode with our Ninja Dentist. So that's good. It's okay to use mostly dumbbells. If you're exceptionally tall or exceptionally short, sometimes you're not going to fit in the machines the right way. Then you adopt, right? You improvise. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes some of the best exercise discoveries I made in my 4-decade career was from having to improvise when I was traveling to countries the gyms just sucked, and I had to create exercises and stuff. So that's very good. Chad asks, have I ever thought about offering a holistic coaching program on mindset for clients? Yeah, I sure have, Chad, but we've got so many other projects in the hopper right now. I want to finish 3 that we've got right now in the hopper. The glute training for women, train at home glutes with body weight. The Hard Gainer Solution we're turning into a course. And then the Busy Woman's Train at Home book we're turning into a course as well. And then after that, I'm doing a food issues course, hopefully. And then there's talk of having a retreat, like a real retreat, like for people who are really high-end interested. I do have a book online, Chad, on Amazon about how to be an awesome online coach. It just sort of scratches the surface, but it's definitely a starter. So, yeah. Laura, just so you know, it's a podcast, so it's audio, so it's nothing you really watch, although there are video clips in the podcast. So yeah, you could watch that. Desiree was the most gifted athlete I've ever worked out with, so you'll see some pretty freaky training clips from her as well. So good. Glad you got... Mike, we're talking about some kind of retreat. Now, it's just in the talking stage. I keep teasing people with the idea of Aruba, but affordability comes into play there, as does, trying to herd people together in a place like that. To do stuff inside when everyone will want to be outside. So we're thinking more maybe like Toronto or here in Kelowna or something like that. Something that we can, have real interested people come, and then, and then, turn it into an evergreen product that, that we can continue to educate people with as well. So we would probably limit it. I used to have workshops. I limit to like 20, 25 people, that kind of thing. I prefer the more intimate environments. So but it would probably be like a high-end cost, but with an intimate group. So we'd probably do something like that. So, yeah. Yes, I do have the vacation tan going on, and it is now approaching summer here. So I know for a lot of you around the world, it's the opposite. So, yeah, I'm going to get this done and go for my Sunday morning walk, stroll, clear the noggin, and refresh and start again next week. So, yeah, pretty busy. Sunday breakfast with the coach all the time. Thursday live Coach and Andy show. Monday and Tuesday this week we're shoot videos with the lovely Krista for those 2 projects I just mentioned. And then Fridays we're shoot videos for the Hard Gainer solution. So Saturday I take to breathe in and breathe out, and then do it all again until these are done. So, and then of course the other thing we're in discussion with that I really want to do on a personal level is just I want to turn Physique After 50 and my aging proposition book, I want to turn those into a course as well. So, those are future agendas, because we have a lot of balls in the air right now as it is. So, very, very important stuff. So, the other thing too is this notion of training to exhaustion, and that, exhausting yourself in the process of anything that is supposedly healthy. There's nothing healthy about that. So, I watch these people, these people in the gym because it's contest time, completely exhausting themselves, and they don't realize, they just think that that's temporary. It's not temporary. Your body is recording all of that, all right? Your mind is recording all of that, and there will be a huge consequence to pay for that for most people. In my book, Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting, we talk about 3 levels of metabolic resilience. And if you don't have them, what kind of hell can break loose? So people should think about that. If you got a coach having you doing twice a day workouts and morning fasted cardio and less than 1,000 calories and all this other nonsense, well, one, you don't have a very good coach or a very knowledgeable coach, or a coach that cares about your body. And 2, you're going to pay for that, and you're going to pay for that in physiological terms. There's no way around that. It's almost mathematical. Like you are not going to get away with that. So training to exhaustion just simply makes no sense. So the Coach and Andy show is on every Thursday. It's usually around noon my time, 3 Eastern time. Sometimes it's earlier. Now, because we have to shoot in the gym rather than my dungeon, so we shoot in the gym on Friday. So sometimes we get the Coach and Andy show done a little earlier on Thursday. So maybe 11 o'clock my time. That would be 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if people can tune in. And don't forget, I post all these things afterwards. I post them on YouTube anyway. So hopefully that helps people as well. So hopefully the picture is nice and clear and the sound is good. I got a new iPhone, and I've never owned a phone in my life, and I got it just for this. So, yeah. I just got a comment. Dave Lackey says, my book, Your Truth is Calling, is the most valuable fitness resource I own, full of highlights and notes. Really appreciate the mindset projects. Well, thanks, Dave. That book is now, it's buried on my Scott Abel Fitness site. It's available, but buried, so people have to ask for it specifically. That was one of the first books I wrote, and probably would require a rewrite with everything I know now about editing and things like that. But I had no help in that area with that book. But it was an immensely popular book, connecting the dots to self-awareness and all about the mental, emotional, and physical triangle and how they connect, and a lot of spiritual fitness stuff in that book as well. So I appreciate you mentioning that, Dave. Thank you. So what else we got for comments? So that's a lot about the cycle diet. Well, people really, since I've been in the industry, it's amazing to me that diet has always been the forefront conversation, that people want to just complicate something that's maybe not as complicated as people think it is. So I can see one of the things recently, I got off YouTube for a lot of years, and now I'm back on it, of course, as I learn how to use these simple technology tools. And I look down the right side when I post a video and they show all these other related videos, and I can see how the consumer gets so confused out there with all the nonsense I see along the right. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. It's just full of contradictory information and who you're supposed to listen to. And of course, most people are affected to listen to the person with the most likes. I mean, that's just the online digital world. But as I've said many times, the real experts aren't usually online. They don't really care about social media. If they are online, they're barely online. So some of the Harvard nutritionists that I follow, they barely have 1,000 people following their Facebook page, and they hardly ever use it. But those are the smart people. So, and then you'll see some bodybuilding.com person with 30,000 followers and saying all kinds of nonsense. So, so it can be deceiving, and it must be hard to be a consumer out there. I can certainly appreciate that. And it's ironic, too, because I post stuff and then I get challenged by some 20-year-olds who don't understand who I am in the industry, who I was in the industry, and what level I functioned at in the industry as writer and ghostwriter and working with the top people in the world in bodybuilding and physique sculpting. And they want to tell me that I'm wrong about this and wrong about that, and you just shrug your shoulders and move on. So Chad says, Scott, I haven't heard many coaches discourage women from competing. You have coached elite women in physique your past life and have seen the fallout. Can you ever do a book or a long write-up on this? I've done all kinds of write-ups on it, Chad, and no one wants to hear it. I mean, basically female competing in the physique industry saved bodybuilding. No one really goes to watch the Frankenstein bodybuilders anymore. What pays for promoters is having figure and bikini and all these other categories, and women flock to it. Women just love being ogled for some reason, no matter what the cost. And plus, it's a good way. Another book that we took off is a book I wrote a long time ago. The first book I wrote on this wasn't actually Metabolic Damage and the Dangers of Dieting. It was actually, let me see, and I wrote food issues books. The first book I wrote was called The Other Side of the Mirror, and it was all about body image dependency disorder in the fitness industry. And I took that off as well because I can use some of the exercises in there for other projects. So, a lot of coaches aren't going to discourage ladies from competing, Chad, because that's how they make their money. So they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot, by saying, well, so they tend to be the ones who say, well, our coaching, there's no risk in our diet. Well, they don't understand human physiology. The risk isn't in the diet. So as I always say, if two cars drive off the Grand Canyon and one person's wearing a seatbelt and the other one isn't, is it really going to affect the impact? Not really. It's the same thing with female physiology trying to reach body fat levels that the female body didn't evolve to be at. So I can get into that argument, but I've written tons about it, Chad, tons till I'm blue in the face. But I'm just a whisperer in a in a sea of screaming voices trying to glorify female competition, which makes no sense to me, having seen the fallout. So there's very few Desiree Walkers in the world who are born with the resilient metabolisms to compete. But everyone wants to present that it's healthy and safe for everyone else because that's how they make their money. Now they're coming in fast and furious. Sherry says female competition is all about making money. Of course, it preys on women with insecurities and his pageant mentality and its fitness, so women twist to be more focused on health to justify it. I'm a retired competitor, so I include myself. Yeah, there's a lot of people it's a lot like the addiction world, actually, Sherry. Like people after the fact, they come in and say, well, I want to help. I don't want other people to go through what I went through. So, I want to try to help them. But until then, you just get drowned out by people who hear these arguments and they say there's no such thing as metabolic damage. And they say that this is just people with, they're just bad apples. They're just jealous and all this other stuff. I know what I know. When I get a sea of emails every year from people, from ladies who have taken their bodies too far and now don't know how to bring them back, I know it's real, and my first vow, I mean, when I got myself straight, the first vow was do no harm. So I'm definitely not going to help anyone where I think harm can be done. And I just don't like the mentality it produces at the end. It produces very helpless individuals with very low self-esteem who are freaking out left and right because they're on their last nerve, and that's no way to live. But again, you can go on another site right now that's glorifying the whole thing, because somewhere this weekend there's a competition and everyone's posting pictures and oh, how beautiful she looks and how wonderful she looks. And I'm not going to get too far into that. I don't want to create myself to be a punching bag for other people. I'm in this to help people who want to be helped, and that's good enough for me. I leave the competition world to competition coaches who want to do it. So, every so often I'll help a natural competitor if I think it's not going to do any harm and I think their mind is in a right stead for that. But that's few and far between. So, I don't know about competing being a fashionable thing right now. I don't know. I mean, I think people seem to think they need a goal in order to get in shape. But if you see, our Coach and Andy show, Andy is in ripped, tip-top condition year-round, and he's never competed and has no desire to compete. So I try to teach the people, the goal is the process and the process is the goal. Like, what are you going to compete for the rest of your life? I mean, that just makes no sense to me. So, so I know the people who follow me are on the same page. So, yes, I prepared Linda Murray for Miss Olympia, and I helped Laura Cravell at one time. Chris Aceto and I know each other pretty well. I mean, I could go back now and try to find these people, like Linda Murray, who was a Miss Olympia champion that I helped. I prepared her for a couple Olympias, but if I do that, then I go back to that world, and I'd rather not do that. So, a lot of the times people use pro cards and they hide behind them, Ali. Meanwhile, I know more competitors than I can count who have pro cards and massive eating disorders and psychological issues. I was just showing the other day some pictures to some people of metabolic damage. The one girl, her spouse died at age 36 of a massive heart attack in the gym from steroids and all kinds of other combinations. And she was once a fitness model representing a certain supplement company, and she ended up in rehab and gained about 70 pounds. So, what you see on the forefront becomes glorified, but a lot of the times people hiding behind the term IFBB Pro, you have no idea what's going on behind that surface. And like I said, I've said many times, I've been to the top of that mountain and I stayed there for many years, and I didn't like the view, so I climbed back down and left and decided to help just regular people, which is really rewarding, like the before and after picture I posted on Instagram and Facebook yesterday. So Ian asked, did I get a more pronounced metabolic response from eating off diet and training in Aruba as opposed to not training on a vacation? Good question, Ian. I think I tackled this, but yeah, I get a more profound metabolic bounce because I get to experience situational hypermetabolism. One, from a sudden change in climate. My body has to cool the skin down, being in a sudden change and suddenly in a very hot environment. And then training in a place with no air conditioning, got up to like 40 degrees in the gym. Those things all help the hyper metabolic response, as does being in the sun, things like that. But also being off diet, of course, produces situational hypermetabolism. So those things tend to act like a 1-2-3 punch. Then when I come back and get back on my diet, I mean, all I heard the first week was how I've leaned out, which just makes me smile, because if you saw what I ate for the 2 weeks, you'd think that wouldn't be possible. But now the one thing that has changed, Ian, is I used to go on vacations and never work out. When you work out and diet for a living, you don't want to do those things on vacation any more than people don't want to take work with them on their vacation. But once I hit 50, I noticed that more than a couple days off training for me has a different effect now. My joints really stiffen up in a really, really bad way. Don't forget, I'm going to be 56 in a couple months. So, if I don't work out, actually, it has the opposite effect. My joints get stiffer and stiffer. It gets harder to get out of bed. The arthritis in my shoulders is worse. So, it's not that I have to train, but I'm a lot healthier, feel healthier if I do train. So I don't train while I'm in Aruba or on vacation now because I'm compelled to train. I just feel better if I do. So I make that part of it. So that's very, very important. So, yeah, I agree with you there, Ali. I don't want to keep talking about competition because I have such little interest in it. But yeah, I mean, the whole reason they keep introducing new categories in the competitive world, right, is to make it easier and easier for people to compete, so they can get another entry fee and another membership fee to the local organization and pick people's pockets. I mean, I was trying to explain to someone the other day, and it fell on deaf ears. Like, there was a lady at the gym who could be making a killing online and competing in bikini, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how much did you spend for those two contests to exhaust yourself the way you're exhausted, eyes all sunken in and things like that? Probably spent $1,000, $2,000 getting ready for a contest. Meanwhile, we launch products online that make 10 times that. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's not forward thinking. People think in very, very small bubbles, right? So you can't make people think big picture. So even when they have the goods, so yeah, and there's just too much online glorifying the whole experience, right? So, what are you going to do? So, yeah, okay, well, so we started by reading Desiderata. Hopefully that resonated with some of you guys. Any other questions? Because we've been almost to the hour now. So let's I talk about coaching. One of the things I've always said, to go back to the question on coaching. Let me just read a quote I just pulled up. Coaching methodologies are outcome-oriented rather than problem-oriented. They tend to be highly solution-focused, promoting the development of new strategies for thinking and acting as opposed to trying to resolve problems and past conflicts. Problem-solving or remedial change is more associated with counseling and therapy. So there's a difference between thinking at the level of the problem and thinking at the level of the solution, right? And that's what I meant earlier when I said, you have to coach people where their greatest needs are. And sometimes that's not with the program and the diet. Sometimes that's with their thinking and their emotional realm about the program and diet, right? Stinking thinking. So sometimes the program and the diet are the problem, not the solution. And they're not going to ever get there until they change the way they think about these things and adopt a lifestyle and embrace that lifestyle. So that's very important as well. So, yeah. So, all right, folks. Anything else for this session? People seem to be signing out before I'm done. So, anyway, if you have any other questions, remember, Sunday Breakfast with the Coach every Sunday. Write your questions down in advance. And, I'd be happy to sign in and see a list of questions, already ready for me. So, yeah, we could definitely do that. So, yeah. So, and a lot of people are just saying, yes, correct. People are stuck in sort of stinking thinking mode, and then they wonder why they can't change their bodies. Well, that's why, you can't have a toxic mind produce a healthy body. That's just not going to work. And it's not going to be sustainable even if it works for a little while. So that's very, very important. Hopefully that helped, Jen. So signing off, folks. Look up Desiderata for yourself, and hopefully that helped. And I will sign off till next week. It's a beautiful sunny day here with no clouds, going up to 30 degrees. So I'm going to go spend some time in nature, and I will see you all next week. If you like the episodes, give me some thumbs and hearts, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. And if there's stuff you want me to talk about, then you just got to, let me know when you sign in. Don't be shy, because I'm on here for you guys, not just myself. So hopefully see you all next week, and I appreciate all the emoticons. Lets me know it's worth being here, and I'll talk to you all next Sunday. Thanks a lot.